Morning, guys. Welcome to part 4 of empathy. So today we're going to talk about a little bit about what the difference between empathy versus sympathy. We're going to watch a quick video that's going to dig into this a little deeper.
So what is empathy, and why is it very different than sympathy? Empathy fuels connection. Sympathy drives disconnection. Empathy, it's very interesting. Teresa Wiseman is a nursing scholar who studied professions, very diverse professions where empathy is relevant, and came up with 4 qualities of empathy. Perspective taking, the ability to take the perspective of another person or recognize their perspective as their truth. Staying out of judgment, not easy when you enjoy it as much as most of us do. Recognizing emotion in other people and then communicating that. Empathy is feeling with people. And to me, I always think of empathy as this kind of sacred space when someone's kind of in a deep hole and they shout out from the bottom and they say, I'm stuck, it's dark, I'm overwhelmed. And then we look and we say, hey, I'm down. I know what it's like down here. And you're not alone. Sympathy is, ooh, it's bad, no. You want a sandwich? Empathy is a choice, and it's a vulnerable choice, because in order to connect with you, I have to connect with something in myself that knows that feeling. Rarely, if ever, does an empathic response begin with at least. And we do it all the time, because you know what? Someone just shared something with us that's incredibly painful, and we're trying to silver lining it. I don't think that's a verb, but I'm using it as one. We're trying to put the silver lining around it. So, I had a miscarriage. Oh, at least you know you can get pregnant. I think my marriage is falling apart. At least you have a marriage. John's getting kicked out of school. At least Sarah is an A student. But one of the things we do sometimes in the face of very difficult conversations is we try to make things better. If I share something with you that's very difficult, I'd rather you say, I don't even know what to say right now, I'm just so glad you told me. Because the truth is, rarely can a response make something better. What makes something better is connection.
Okay, so what happens when your friend is going through a difficult time? Do you express sadness and hope that things get better for her soon, him or her? Or do you put yourself in her shoes? Do you share feelings of distress? Do you share those feelings out loud? Do you talk about those feelings? So there might seem to be very little difference between 2 responses to your friend's situation, but these responses are actually 2 very different emotions, okay? So when you express sincere concern about your friend and genuinely hope he or she feels better, you're expressing sympathy, as in the first response, right? That's too bad. So when you really try and put yourself in their position, even feeling some of their distress, you are expressing empathy. So the second response, you're sharing the feeling with your friend, okay? So think of empathy as a step above sympathy. So sympathy is, you're almost like halfway there, okay? Sympathy and empathy are important emotions in friendship. So it is important to be sympathetic, but it's also important to be empathetic. Okay, so they're important emotions in how we communicate in all kinds of social relationships. Okay, so during this lesson, this series of lessons in empathy, we discussed what empathy is and how we can increase our empathy. And we reflected on a time when we weren't as empathetic as we could have been. And you also reflected on what you could have done differently in that moment, okay? So now I want you to take some time to think of an empathic person in your own life. So how do you know they are empathetic? What is something that you can learn from them? Because whoever we surround ourselves with, these are the people in our lives that influence us, okay? So that's why I'm asking you to think of somebody in your life that is empathetic, that demonstrates empathy. So the reason I'm asking you this is because if we will ultimately become more empathetic if we're spending time with people that show these emotions, right? That are have the ability to be empathetic towards you. Those we're going to ultimately become more empathetic ourselves. So it's like a constant reminder. Being around people that have this ability is a constant reminder that we should always be working towards increasing our own empathy. Because again, there's always that room for growth. You may be empathic already, but there's always more to do, right? There's always more work. So again, think about who demonstrates empathy in your own life. Reflect on this in your journal. You can talk about this as a class or with the person next to you. Who in your life demonstrates empathy? All right, guys, have a good day. See you next time.